Sleeping Beauty. Chapter 1. Good News. Many years ago, a king and queen lived in a magical castle. They had everything they could want, except a baby. Year after year, the queen stitched and sewed tiny clothes, and the king made toys in his palace workshop. But still, there was no baby. Then, one day, while the queen sat knitting by the lake, a bright green frog hopped, skipped, and jumped right onto her lap. "Don't be sad, Your Majesty," said the frog. "You are going to have a baby this year." "What?" And with that, she bowed and leapt back into the lake. True to the frog's words, the queen gave birth to a lovely baby girl. "I shall call her Rose," she declared happily. The king was so pleased, he planned it for a feast to celebrate. "I shall invite every prince and princess in the land," he decided, and asked 7 fairies to be Rose's fairy godmothers. The king sent the invitations by bluebird post, and everyone agreed to come. Servants scrubbed and cleaned until the castle gleamed. There had never been a party like this. Chapter 2. 7 Wishes. On the day of the feast, crowds came to cheer and watched the guests arrive. The men wore cloaks of finest velvet, and women shimmered in silk. 7 fairies flew in through a castle window, leaving a glittering trail behind them. "The godmothers!" cried the king, holding out his hand to greet them. "Let the feast begin!" announced the queen, and merry music filled the room. The tables were piled high with scrumptious food, and everyone ate off golden plates. When no one could manage another bite, the fairies gathered before the king and the queen. "We have some wishes for Princess Rose," said Snowdrop, the first fairy, with a curtsy. She fluttered her fairy fingers. "Rose will be the most beautiful girl in the kingdom. Then Honeysuckle waved her wand, and she'll be clever enough to beat the king at chess. The third fairy, Willow, floated over. She will have grace in all she does, and she'll dance to perfection, added Bluebell. Blossom and Buttercup wished that Rose would play every instrument like an angel and sing like a nightingale. Everyone wondered what Jasmine, the seventh and the wisest fairy, would wish for. Chapter 3. The Uninvited Guest. As Jasmine hovered over the cradle, a blast of icy air swept through the great hall. Then a chilling voice rang out of nowhere. "Haven't you forgotten someone?" Suddenly, the mean fairy Nightshade appeared in the whirlwind of foul green smoke. "How dare you not invite me?" she roared. We didn't mean to, Nightshade," the king stammered. "We just forgot you," finished the queen meekly. "Forgot me?" Nightshade screamed so fiercely that the flames in the fireplace went out. "Well, you won't forget this." She flicked her cloak and marched up to the cradle. "Now, my pretty," she purred, lifting a golden curl with a bony finger. "What shall I wish for you?" Everyone in the palace held their breath. Silent tears ran down the queen's face. Nightshade leaned into the cradle and snored. "On your 16th birthday, you will prick your finger on a spinning wheel and die." "No!" cried the queen, but Nightshade crackled gleefully and disappeared with a deafening bang. "I still have my wish," said Jasmine softly. "I can't undo that wicked spell, but I can try to change it." "You will prick your finger, little Rose," Jasmine began, "but you won't die. You and everyone else in the castle will fall into a deep sleep. Only a kiss from your true love will break the spell." "Burn every spinning wheel in the land at once," bellowed the king. "Rose must never ever see one." That night, the flames from a massive bonfire could be seen for miles. They licked the dark sky like serpents' tongues. Chapter 4. A Special Birthday. The years passed, and Rose grew into a delightful girl. Everyone she met adored her. She danced, sang, and played music as wonderfully as the fairies had wished. Ha ha! Checkmate! She was clever and played to win. Rose loved playing hide and seek in the castle gardens, and secretly she liked to sketch the prince of her dreams. Time went happily by, and Rose's 16th birthday drew near. The castle began to buzz with excitement. The king and queen were planning a huge ball. Rose was so excited she could hardly keep still. Chapter 5. The Long Sleep. The night of the ball finally arrived. Handsome prince and pretty princess floated into the great hall. The king and queen smiled proudly as they watched Rose from their thrones. She swirled and twirled in a dazzling ball gown, and every prince fell in love with her. When the feasting was nearly over, Rose pleaded for a game. "Hide and seek!" she shouted and dashed off into the castle. She raced up twisting stairs, down a long narrow corridor, through a tiny door, and found herself at the staircase of a tower she had never seen before. Soft singing floated down the terraced stairs. In a trance, Rose followed the music. At the top of the stairs, she found a heavy iron door. Inside, an old woman sat hunched over a spinning wheel. "Come and see, my pretty," she said, beckoning Rose with a bony finger. "I am Spinny, my dear," croaked the old woman. "It's amazing," said Rose, touching the silky thread. "May I try?" "Of course," said the old woman, taking her hand. At once, Rose snapped out of the trance. "Oh!" she cried as they pricked her finger. Rose fell to the floor. The old woman crackled, then disappeared in a whirlwind of foul green smoke. In the same instant, everyone in the castle fell asleep. The king nodded off over his pudding, and the court jester froze mid-lip. All the clocks stopped. The place was silent and still, except for the rose bushes. They spread like ivy, covering everything in their path. They grew so quickly that soon the entire castle was covered in thick roots and sharp thorns. Chapter 6. A Prince Rides By. For 100 years, the castle stayed hidden. Only the tops of the towers showed through the bushes. Passers-by stopped to stare at the forgotten castle. Princes from far and wide heard about the spell. They came in their hundreds to try to rescue the princess known as Sleeping Beauty. But the thorns cut their skin and the roots wrapped around their legs like snakes. One by one, they gave up. One day, a brave prince named Florian rode by. He had dreamed of Sleeping Beauty and was determined to find her. He pulled out his sword with a flourish and began to tackle the sticky bushes. As Florian's sword touched a branch, something magical happened. Each sharp thorn became a sweet-smelling rose. A path cleared before him. He followed its twists and turns until he reached the topmost terrace and climbed to where Sleeping Beauty lay. Florian's heart fluttered like a bird when he saw her. She was the most beautiful girl he had ever seen. Taking her hand, he kissed her soft lips. Her eyes flickered open, and Rose found herself face to face with the prince of her dreams. "You are the prince I drew!" she cried. He bowed. "Prince Florian, here to rescue you," he announced and scooped her up. As they walked through tunnels of roses, everyone else in the castle woke up too. The king fell into his pudding with a splash, and the court jester landed with an unexpected bump. "Oh!" Rose and Florian entered the great hall. "My Rose!" cried the queen. "And her true love," smiled the king. Rose and Florian were married the very next day. They lived happily ever after, and the prince always lost in chess.